What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Marvel's Spider-Man 2 DLC yet again. I feel like we got to do this every month or two just to keep it going. And you know what? I'm having fun with this, okay? What we're going to talk about today is the Insomniac Twitter and, kind of going back and forth with some people. And part of me is infuriated. To be more realistic, right? Part of me is kind of like flabbergasted that they're letting it go like this. And another part of me is honestly kind of sitting back and enjoying it. Like, I do mean that first, 10, 15 seconds of this video. Because they're talking about announcing, they're saying there's no news on news at this point, right? Like, they're not, like, it's one step even more removed from the actual news itself of announcing a Spider-Man 2 DLC. And again, like, part of me's like, can you, for the love of, it's anger, right? For the love of God, just say you're doing it or say you're not doing it. And then the other part of me probably still thinks that, but is kind of just like enjoying the ride. I'll stick with what I've always said, just in case you're curious. I personally do not think there's DLC for Spider-Man 2 coming. That's been my opinion for a long time. I think even when the game came out, you can disagree. I totally respect that. I would get DLC. If DLC comes out, I will purchase it. Okay, I'll make you that deal, right? I'm not opposed to it. Absolutely not. I just don't think it's going to happen, and that's all. Okay, so let's look at some of their Twitter replies. Now, what's interesting, and to keep in mind, is they're actually answering things about non-Spider-Man things as well. So we're going to talk mainly about Spider-Man, but you have right here, like, news about Wolverine. We do not have news to share right now. Then there was this person who I think actually took his post down. The post was deleted by the author, but the response was, we don't have any news to share at this time about future content drops. And I don't know if that's for outfits, things like it could be, maybe it's for something else, but again, the original comment is gone. Then the big one, right? This is the biggest one of the entire thing. Any news on DLC? We don't have anything new to announce. And the way that I first saw that, and even just, you just read it. Maybe you can interpret it in different ways, but to me, it feels, again, like that it's not even about the news itself. Is, hey, we don't even have news on announcing something that's news. You know what I mean? Like, the answer of yes or no, we don't have anything to report on that as of right now. And it's like, oh my, so that's how I look at that response. You guys can let me know how you look at the response in the comments. But, again, I go back and forth between, like, infuriation and then kind of enjoying it. But I will say this, okay? We're getting close to the 1 year. And I think I actually just responded to somebody, like, in the comments of an older video about this same thing. Am I saying that it's never, like, for sure, 100%, like, it's not going to happen? No. I think it's unlikely. And I think it's unlikely just because you look at the history of any game that's approaching its 1 year anniversary. Then you add on what Insomniac has kind of already talked about, right? That all hands are on deck on Wolverine. And I do kind of believe that. Some people are working on, like, Ratchet and Clank for 2029, right? Some people are probably working on Spider-Man 3. But is, like, 90%, 95% of the studio working on Wolverine? Yes, I honestly believe that. And what does that mean? It means they're not working on Spider-Man 2 DLC. The only way they could be is if you don't believe them, which is fine. Hey, I've not believed developers before, and developers oftentimes lie to us to hide secrets that could excite us later on, right? Totally reasonable. But as we get, like, right now, we're 2 months away. 2 months away from the 1 year anniversary. And this is around the time, like, you either do a director's cut kind of now, like within the next 6 months, which means you'd have to announce it pretty soon. You either do a director's cut that has, new DLC attached to it, or you don't, and you just move on to the next. You know what I mean? There's not too many games that go past. Now, there could be some. We have the rumor for the Hogwarts Legacy kind of director's cut, and that game is a year and a half old. So that game, the director's cut, might not come out till closer to 2 years. I think that's kind of weird. I think it's kind of weird to do a expanded version of a single-player game 2 years after the game's come out, and then you have to wait however many more years, for the second game, when you probably could have just not done that DLC and got to the second game faster, right? And it's the same thing here. Maybe you get Venom faster. Maybe you get Spider-Man 3 faster if you don't do DLC. Up to you if you like that or not, right? I guess that's subjective, but I think that's kind of true because you'd be telling developers, hey, you have to work on this DLC, and then they can't work on something else, right? That's pretty obvious, right, in terms of that. So again, that leads me back to, I really would just like an answer. I get they're in a tough spot because Eventually, I think they're going to have to do it because I honestly believe it's a little too loud and too big to just ignore it. Like, in a different world with different developers and say like a smaller scale thing, you could probably just never respond, drop it, and eventually like get to the next game, and people will just leave it alone. I don't really think you can do that. I could see, and this is what I mean by this, I could see them showing Wolverine again in 2024, and 10%, 15% of the comments, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, being, are you doing Spider-Man 2 DLC? I think it's that loud. Not half, not 70, 80, 90%, but maybe like 10, 15, for every 10 comments, there's like 1, 2, 3 comments asking about DLC. I think it's that loud. And when you have something that loud, what does that mean? It means you kind of have to address it eventually. And to be honest with you, they're already talking about it. They're just, again, they're separating themselves so far where it's, hey, like yes or no. Well, we don't have any news to report on yes or no. Like, we're still deciding on yes or no. Once we decide, we'll give you an announcement that we're deciding, and then we'll give you the answer. Like, it's 2 steps removed from the actual thing. You know what I mean? And I do think that's kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you, and I think you kind of need a response. I really do. When you have those kind of answers on Twitter, it's like it's easy to say. But what I was just about to say, just say you're not doing it. Like, if you're not doing it, just say you're not doing it. And I'm at the point now where I think you have to do one of those two. If you are doing the DLC, just come out. You have to make it a big deal. You have to make it like a blog post and a video and all that stuff. Come out and say there's a DLC. And maybe we get that in the next month or so, right? Maybe there's a showcase in September. Maybe they do it, right? Or literally issue a statement. Issue a statement on Twitter. It'll get 20, 30, 40, 50,000 likes. Issue a statement and say, hey, we hear you. We're not doing DLC. That's it. And that's how you drop it. Like, this is not how you drop it. This is not having anybody drop anything. Telling people it's not happening is how you get that. And hey, I like conspiracies. Like, if you want to look at that and say, well, Alex, because they're not saying no, they're in a way saying yes, they are doing it. I can respect that. I will give you that reasoning and say that's pretty okay. That's pretty valid because that could happen. You know what I mean? But I do think like we're approaching the time, honestly, because of the 1 year. We're approaching the 1 year. We're approaching potentially more PlayStation, events, whether it's Tokyo Game Show or maybe they do their own showcase. We're approaching a time you kind of have to do it. Otherwise, are you going to keep going until like May of next year and have people still asking you in 9 months from now, hey, is Spider-Man 2, a year and a half after Spider-Man 2 comes out, hey, you still doing DLC? In the same year, Wolverine, or, maybe a year removed from Wolverine coming out. You still want people saying that? You know what I mean? Like, you have to shut that down eventually, or you have to just do it. And I mean, at this point, we're kind of in like a limbo period. So you let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel. Bell icons turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.